It's such a pleasure to get to talk to you both together for this, because this has been such a labor of love for you guys for so many years. So it mustn't be difficult to let go because you've gone full circle with it, correct?
Well, I guess we've gone full circle. We've gone sort of full circle backwards,
Yes.
making them out of sequence, of course, because the Lord of the Rings followed the Hobbit as books. Yeah, it sort of it feels like we've finished just a big job, and hopefully it's a job well done, and time to move on. And I don't, I don't have a huge sentimentality because I think you're so focused on making the best film you can, and if you've made the best film you can, then you're happy rather than feeling sad. So I'm very, very happy with this film.
So was I when I saw it.
Oh, thank you.
From a technological standpoint, this has been the most challenging set of battle scenes that you've ever had to do, correct?
Well, every challenge, every battle scene is a big challenge, and how this one stacks up against the Lord of the Rings battles, I guess other people will make their decision about that. But it was, look, to be honest, this is probably easier than the Lord of the Rings battles because in those days we couldn't do as much with the computers, and so we had to have hundreds and hundreds of extras that, in hot costumes and people fainting and people being carried off the set and all sorts of things were going on, and that was actually quite a challenge. With CGI, you get one, you can control the battles more. Plus, I can film them myself. I can be on a virtual set with a camera and actually be the cinematographer, which I was of the battle scenes in this film. So I kind of actually, I think the technology makes it a little bit easier and it makes it more fun.
The challenge was to keep those characters intact and for them to shine with all that technological aspect of it. So I'm sure you had a lot to do.
Well, no,
Yes.
actually, Pete,
Wow.
Pete always said that, that the action's only as good as you care about the characters that it's
Oh yeah,
happening
yeah.
to.
If you don't care about I mean,
Yeah.
a battle's one thing, but if you don't care about who's fighting in the battle,
Yeah.
you may as well, it's just a complete waste of time.
Yeah, so it was really
Yeah.
about finding your way through that, and then you sort of hand the fighting over to Pete. You get to
Thank
do
you very
all-
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make it look good.
But it is the characters. I mean, story is about character. I mean,
Yeah, of
story
course.
doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a story without, I mean, characters drive stories. That's why we engage in stories, because we're engaging with a particular character or series of characters within that story. It's the whole point. I mean, that's what stories are. They are, you following the adventures of somebody, whether they're human beings
Yeah.
or not, or and so having that engagement is really important. And actually shooting battles too, one of the things we found is if when we're editing a battle scene, if we go for more than 2 or 3 shots without seeing one of our principal characters, you can actually feel the battle getting kind of boring, because battles are battles, fighting, swords, clang, that gets tiring pretty quickly. And so we always give ourselves a rule: don't go for more than 2 or 3 shots without landing back on one of main main characters, because who are also obviously engaged in the battle. They're part of the battle, but that's the heart of the story.
And we also see those amazingly complex pairings between the characters, the conflicts, without giving too much away. What for you are the highlights of what the characters are going through in terms of conflicts and triangles and
Well, I loved that we got to fulfill the story with the elves, and to see that come full circle, and sort of, especially with Legolas's story, to be able to know that he's where he's coming from when you finally meet him in the Fellowship of the Ring. That's going to be interesting for people who actually watch the films in that order. But also, I think obviously fulfilling Thorin's story was really important, and being able to you become very invested in whether he can pull himself back and become the person that you think he is, because you feel like you've lost him and he's turning into this monster. So you become very invested in that. So that was wonderful. But also, obviously, our darling Hobbit, so beautifully done, portrayed by Martin Freeman, is the heart of the film, and seeing him come home and fulfilling those words that, again, I've said at the very beginning. I can't guarantee that you will come back, but if you do, you will be changed, and he's changed. And it's got echoes in there that are slightly unsettling, which I think is great.
Well, it's coming back home from a war, isn't it?
War,
It's what
yeah.
anybody must experience. coming home after being involved in a war. Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful that the hobbits have absolutely
Home,
no idea
home will
of
never
what's...
be the same again.
Yeah,
you know,
never.
home can never be
No.
the same again.
Mm.
And so that innocence, the loss of innocence, I think, with the Hobbit, with Bilbo Baggins, is you certainly feel that you feel that he is coming back home. He has to fit into that society because the hobbits are so judgmental that you can't be an outsider. He's got to somehow find a place for himself, and as it is, he becomes a very, very eccentric hobbit that
Yes.
the rest of the village doesn't really trust him particularly. So he can't actually, the truth is he can't really fit back in as he used to, because it's now his life has changed forever.
We're talking about, 5 armies, so many characters, so many things. How do you stay focused on the intimacy of the storyline and not get lost in all the...
One army per day. Today it's elves, tomorrow it's the orcs. No, well, it is like that. Filmmaking is breaking it down into very small pieces, and so, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. It's like one of those, because there's about 3,000 shots in a feature film, sort of in the length of films that we tend to make. There's about 3,000 shots, so it's like one of those 3,000 piece jigsaw puzzles that you sit there on a winter's day, try it spread out on the table, except the only difference is that you actually have to make each piece of the puzzle. You don't just buy it in a cardboard box and have it pre-made and you just have to put it together. That happens in the cutting room, in the editing room, but before then you've actually got to go and make each of these pieces, and you have to make them in such a way that it's all going to fit together and make a big picture that makes sense at the end. And so, you only ever focus really on one little piece of the puzzle at any given time. So if you really stopped and thought about the enormity of it all too much, you would sort of actually run screaming from the room, and it wouldn't make the movie in the first place, I don't think.
That's why you guys are so unique. Well, having seen how you get very engaged in any project that you tackle on, I remember the Memphis 3 and everything you've ever done. Do those projects stay with you all your lives, and how do you move on from one project to the other?
I move on reasonably easily because you get excited about other stories, other characters. You just get excited, and it gets to the point that if you want to see this movie, you've got to make it yourself, because no one else. The movie that you start to imagine in your head, which is never actually what you end up with, but that's okay. That's part of the excitement, the adventure, is to start at one place, but like The Hobbit, and you end up in a completely different, with a completely different film than what you first imagined. But that's the journey. But you imagine this film in your head, and you just know no one's ever going to make that movie because it's in your head. It's in your head. So unless I make it, I'll never get to see it. So that's what actually that's what drives me. So I've already got other movies that are beginning to get themselves assembled in my head now, which I'm excited about, which hopefully we'll get to make.
Yeah, I feel great about it. It's great to hand it over to the people you made it for, which are the fans, and that's what we want to do. And so it's out there in the world. It's like sending your child out into the world.
I mean, some of this movie, because we shot all 3 at the same time, and we've been releasing part 1 and then part 2. Some of this movie was shot about 4 years ago. A long time ago. It's a long time. And normally you shoot a scene from a movie, and within about 6 or 8 months it's released on the screen. But we have scenes in this movie that were literally shot 4 years ago. We were all 4 years younger.
I know.
But it's sort of a relief. It's a relief to get to be able to get it finished and to hand it over to people to see, because that's the reason why we ultimately make the films. I mean, you make them because I want to see them, but I also want other people to see them too. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit expensive. Expensive way just to make my own movie. I do have to ultimately make them for other people as well.